All right. Well, who had the most impressive upset in week 5? Because there was a ton of them. Only 6 teams in the entire NFL covered out of 14 games. I think the answer to this one, though, I know you guys might make a case, and you could definitely say it for Denver, but I think it's a pretty easy case and slim dunk to say New England. And the reason I say that is because they had to go into Buffalo as a division rival on a Sunday night, Drake May's first ever primetime game. This was not a 1 o'clock game. And they went in there, and Buffalo was rolling, and it was a whiteout. It looked like Josh's team, Penn State, who we're going to get to a little bit later in the show. Thanks to you, James Franklin. And so for that, for them to go in there, for them to force a couple fumbles, and after the Ramondre Stevenson fumble, and for Stephon Diggs to pop up out of nowhere and go from a guy that looked washed to a guy that has become almost the number 1 receiver in New England overnight, for Chris Collinsworth to be chuckling over Drake May, the way he was able to stiff arm that defender and throw the ball to Stephon Diggs.
I'm so mad that I have to hear Chris Collinsworth talk about Patrick Mahomes.
to basically end that game. I was not that I didn't think New England could cover, but win flat out, I was so impressed. That was a potential culture-changing win for New England.
Well, I predicted before the start of the season the Patriots would get into the playoffs. And you know, we all thought, well, the Patriots could make some noise. I know you did not have them in the playoffs because
I had them just missing.
Yes. But you and I both felt like the Patriots could make some noise. Like I said, I had them making the playoffs. But now they're in a position to where if Buffalo stumbles again this week against Atlanta, or a couple other times, New England's right there to possibly steal the division. I didn't think
that's how big that game was. Think about this. If Buffalo wins the game, they go to 5-0. New England drops to 2-3. The division's basically over. Now all of a sudden you're talking Buffalo 4-1, New England 3-2. Oh, and the Patriots have probably the easiest schedule remaining in the NFL. And Buffalo's got to go to Atlanta, who's coming off their bye. And Michael Penix does play well in the dome at home. Oh, and by the way, Buffalo's Achilles heel is they cannot stop the run, which is the Falcons' strength.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how they do against another lefty quarterback. Because remember, they already faced Tua, and they now have to face Penix.
Yes. I do think, though, while we're talking upsets, I'm going to make this statement. I think last week was such a crazy week. This week it's going to be a complete reversal. I think this week you're going to see teams bounce back. I think you're going to see Buffalo bounce back. I think you're going to see Philly bounce back. I even think if Lamar had a chance to play for Baltimore, I think there would be a chance Baltimore bounces back. I think this is the bounce back week where teams that we think are good that are lost last week, they're not going to lose 2 in a row.
I would agree. But for me, the most impressive, even though they were 3-1 coming into this game, given how Kansas City played the week prior against Baltimore, I know Baltimore is now decimated, but still, it felt like Kansas City had found their groove in that game against the Ravens. And we were like, okay, Jacksonville, you're 3-1, but now you're going up against the 3-time Super Bowl champions, the 3-time Super Bowl MVP. You're on Monday Night Football. We know what happened the last time you played on Monday Night Football at home. You lost to Jake Browning. And so we were like, Jacksonville, are you for real? So for them to win that game after trailing 14-0, because of those factors, I got to say it's the Jaguars.
And the way they did it, right? The pick six, the 21-14 lead. Trevor Lawrence getting stepped out by the right guard. Chris Jones basically staring at him. I don't know if he thought he was down or what happened. Trevor just gets up and he has the right of way. And this is, by the way, is the great thing about the NFL rule, because if this is a college game, he's down. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
In the NFL, he's untouched. You can get up and you can run to the end zone. And once that happened, tell me if you agree with me or this or not, because I thought it was a great win for Jacksonville. But when that happened, my biggest takeaway was, oh, yeah, this is not Kansas City's year. Because there's no way that a Chiefs team that is primed to go to a Super Bowl lets that happen.
Yeah. But it's crazy. Like, every primetime game delivered. You know, you had everything with the 49ers and Rams, where the 49ers kicked the field goal to take the lead in overtime, and the Rams tried to use the same play.
That one too. It feels like forever ago because it was a week ago. So can we talk about that game specifically for 2 seconds?
Yes. I want to bring up this aspect. The Rams used like the same play, that halfback dive, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times throughout that game. They didn't change it up. I don't get it. Like, Sean McVay is supposed to be like this offensive genius, and yet you're running the same formation, the same play 5 or 6 times. You don't think Robert Saleh and the 49ers defense are going to adjust to that? What are we doing?
You know what I think? Kick the field goal. A tie is better than a loss. I cannot believe the media that's defending him saying, oh, well, it's better to lose the game than tie. No, it's not. Especially when it comes to percentages, when it comes to playoffs and all that in a very tight division. You want to at least make sure in that situation you do not lose the game. I understand San Francisco would have had a chance to drive down and kick a game-winning field goal. I get that. But at that point, the way you have been playing, especially because the Niners have had no pass rush really all night because they're decimated, and the Rams had all the momentum in the second half, the way they were shutting down the Niners offense, you have to kick the field goal there. Why is nobody talking about the fact that they bypassed a field goal?
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, but it's always been Sean McVay's mentality.
But to me, I don't care about analytics there. To me, in that specific situation, there is no argument. You have to kick the field goal.
No, here's my thing. Your argument is totally valid. I don't even disagree with you. But for me, it's like, that's always been I'll say it like this. I agree with everything you're saying. I don't think you're wrong. But that it's always been McVay's mentality to be aggressive like that and
isn't he punted in the Super Bowl? Remember against New England when he had a chance? He's punted in very conservative situations in his career.
Okay, so let me rephrase. For the most part, it's been his mentality to go for it. We've seen the Rams do fake punts with Johnny Hekker in situations. Yes. So while I agree with your statement, it's McVay's mentality, at least for the most part, to go for it in that situation. And then the other team I want to talk about in the NFC West, Sam Darnold. Why are you making that throw? You're tied 35-35. What? I get it. Like, look, the ball bounced off a helmet and it landed right in the lap of one of the greatest linebackers, I would say, currently. Surefire Hall of Famer, in my opinion, Levante David, and the Buccaneers win. If you would have told me that Baker Mayfield versus Sam Darnold would be an elite quarterback matchup, I would have laughed at you. Come on. Come on.
Yeah, I think it goes back to this question, though, too. We're talking about both conferences, right? And you look at the NFL, this is the first time in 11 years We have not had a 5-0 team. Obviously, both the Eagles and Bills go down last weekend. And the NFL does feel more open than in years past. I think it does have to do on the AFC side, a lot with injuries, Lamar being injured, Joe Burrow being injured, Kansas City's injuries, a wide receiver. Right now, and again, feel free to argue with me if you want, but I still feel like the favorites in each conference should be the champs and Buffalo. Like they are to me still on a consistent basis the two best teams in football. And I know some people are going to argue about the Lions. And Jalen, if you're still listening, I mean no disrespect to your Detroit Lions, but I'm going to say this. The Lions got blown out week 1 by the Packers. They got worked on that offensive line. Since that moment, this is who the Lions have beat. The Chicago Bears, who their defense is not good. They should have lost to the Raiders if it wasn't for a block kick. They beat the Ravens, who we know now their defense is the worst in the NFL and absolutely atrocious. The Browns, who are trash, and the Bengals, who just benched Jake Browning for Joe Flacco. So let's be real. How good are the Lions really? I think we'll know Sunday night in Kansas City.
Yeah. This is a really interesting 2-week stretch for the Lions because they're at Kansas City this week on Sunday Night Football. And then they host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football next week. But for me, to answer the question on the screen, no, there's not a clear-cut favorite in either conference right now. Like Buffalo, yes, they were 4-0, but there were times you're like, that doesn't look like the Buffalo Bills we've come to know in the last couple of seasons. There were some games that they could have lost, like that Baltimore game in week 1. They very easily could have lost that game.
Yeah, I mean, that one at the time looked amazing. Now, how good of a win does that look?
Yeah. And like the Eagles could have and should have lost against the Buccaneers and the Rams. You could make an argument they could have lost against Dallas.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying the Eagles should be 0-4 right now.
You could make a case they could be 1-4 or 3-2, which is why they're 4-1.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, no, there's not a clear-cut favorite in either conference right now. To me, there's not a team in either the AFC or the NFC where I'm like, yes, they're the clear-cut favorite. Like, I could look at the Eagles and point out a couple flaws. I feel like you could maybe not quite as much, but you could look at the Lions and find a couple flaws. Tampa Bay has won all their games basically at the last second.
That's the thing. We don't know how good Tampa Bay is. Every game they play is a 3-point game. Besides the Eagles game where they lost by 8. I will say this overall about the week. The NFC at the top for the first time in a long time is actually deeper than the AFC. Philly, Tampa, Green Bay, Detroit, San Francisco, the Rams, maybe Seattle. That's 7 teams right there. Where in the AFC, I still think it's Buffalo and maybe Kansas City. And like, if Lamar gets back for Baltimore and their defense gets fixed, maybe. But that's it for me. Like, I think Jacksonville and Indianapolis are good teams. They're good stories. They're not, to me, in the clash yet of a Buffalo or a Kansas City. I know you think Denver could get there. We'll see by the end of the year. I want to put the Chargers there, but every time I want to believe in the Chargers, they end up losing these clunky games.
And they're getting injured. Like, soon Justin Herbert's not going to have.
Amari and Hampton's out. Joe Alt is out. Rashawn Slater's out. Mekhi Becton is in and out of the lineup.
Dude,
and
soon Justin Herbert's not going to have an offensive line to stand behind.
I mean, it's amazing, right? Because remember the conversation going into week 4 was they went 3-0 in the division, and they were facing Jackson Dart in his first start. And the conversation was, oh, if the Chargers win this game, they get to 4-0, the division's over.
Yeah, I remember having that conversation with you. The like with Jacksonville, for example, they really should be undefeated right now because
they won that weird game to Cincinnati when Browning came in. He threw 3 interceptions, and William Cohen went for it on 4th down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the Colts would be undefeated if A.D. Mitchell just holds on to the freaking ball.
Yeah, and DeMarcado did it for Arizona, and somebody else did it this weekend too. Somebody for the Jets did it, right? Somebody else did it.
I don't remember, but that Titans-Cardinals game was wacko.
Unbelievable. And again, I don't want to be this guy, but DeMarcado should have been cut Monday morning.
Yeah.
I cannot understand for the life of me. You are and I'm sorry, I don't mean to yell. I'm really trying to stay calm, but I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at my computer screen, basically.
Dude, I'm surprised you're not wearing all Eagles colors right now since they play in about, what is it, like an hour?
About 2 hours. This is driving me nuts about the NFL. Football is hard, right? You got 53 guys. It's very hard for a guy like DeMarcado to even make the roster. When you have a chance to score a touchdown in the game, get in the end zone and drug the football down when you're clearly in the end zone. Why do they feel the need to have to throw it out of the back of the end zone before they even score? I don't understand it. That's your one opportunity in the week to score.
I don't know. But again, like Jacksonville is 4-1, but they should be 5-0. Indianapolis is 4-1, but they should be 5-0. Buffalo is 4-1. We talked about this last week. Do you really trust the Steelers?
Well, that's the thing. Well, their schedule is pretty easy the next couple of weeks, but you can make the other argument on the side of like Arizona could say, boys, we could be 5-0 and we're 2-3.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm saying I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite, because when I look at these powerhouse teams, I don't feel like there's a team that's really separated themselves from the rest of the pack.
I think we'll get there by about week 8, week 9.
Right. Like when you go back and look at last season, once Philadelphia started to get it rolling, you felt like they were the clear number one.
I think I told you about like week 13. I think I said, I don't care about the Lions. We're the best team in the NFC.
Yeah. So, and you felt like Kansas City was starting to separate themselves.
Well, you felt like it was them and Buffalo. And maybe some people wanted to argue Baltimore, but that was the top 3.
Right. It doesn't feel that way this season.
Well, how about this? In the AFC, could you imagine a playoff with no Lamar and no Patrick Mahomes? Because that's what it would look like right now.
Wait, do you remember the 2017 season where the NFC Championship was Nick Foles against
Case Keenum, and then it was Blake Bortles in Jacksonville against Brady in New England.
Yes, it feels like it could be one of those seasons where you look at the quarterbacks in the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship, and you're like, huh?
I'll tell you what, though, that Jacksonville team was good. I was a fan of Blake Bortles. I'll be the first to admit it.
Yes, I was a fan of Blake Bortles, too. Jacksonville should have been in that Super Bowl, but New England got the benefit of the refs.
See, no kidding.